So we have a lot to talk about today. We could talk. You published a story about all 30 teams. That's kind of a handful, right? We could spend a lot of time on that. All 30 teams. I published a story on the crumbling of the world as we know it, as seen through the lens of sports. And it was 100% your fault.
Yeah, I
I
take the
was,
blame for it.
I think it was a week ago
Yeah,
today.
whenever the story broke that the Lakers sold.
Yeah. I mean, we're partners here, but I think if one of us is going to give the other one an assignment, it's more commonly I would have an idea for you, right?
Correct.
You agree?
I
Um,
never have any ideas.
that's not true.
Yeah,
But you
but
basically called me with an assignment. You're like, you got to tell me what's happening with this Mark Walter thing.
yeah,
And I was intending not to write about it. I was
right.
like, oh, someone else is going to have to carry the ball. A lot going on.
You
And
did say
then,
that.
yeah, it's like somebody will do it. And then I just ruined my weekend. I spent so
Well,
much time. Just
pretty sure you said I ruined your weekend after the weekend
You did. Yeah,
for me.
that's right. Yeah, you ruined my weekend. That's right. I spent a lot of time just trying to figure out what my best understanding of what's happening with the Lakers,
Yeah,
which, for a sports fan should be pretty basic, right? You shouldn't have to learn 50 names, from Russia, from the United Arab Emirates, from the Epstein files, from insurance industry. But that's the only way you can explain what's happening with the Lakers now is to get
I'm
your
going to tell you.
tentacles into all these things.
I'm going to tell you a cute little story about you that
Okay.
goes through me and to you. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So, and then we can talk to you about the really important stuff. So, I have this other business, not my second business, where we do virtual training for high school players, right? So, the guy who runs it for me is a former coach of my son, who I coached years ago, named Pete Alexandru. And so Pete called me a few weeks, I don't know, a month ago, whatever. And he said, "Hey, we got a potential new client. His father is a very large, heavily bearded man from Kentucky who is absolutely in love with basketball. His son is a very talented ninth grader, and he's very interested. And he says he listens to every podcast you do. He reads everything you ever write. Blah blah blah. He said you're the smartest basketball voice he's ever heard. This guy's crazy about basketball. So in the ensuing week since he's first signed up his son up to the program, when Pete was telling me, hey, we have a lot of clients, members we call them. I can't keep track of all these guys. That's what he does. He knows them all. Um, but he referred like, hey, you remember the guy from Kentucky? So I said, you mean the smartest guy in the world? So every time he refers to this guy from Kentucky, he has to say, not the guy from Kentucky, he has to say smartest guy in the world because he
Yeah,
thinks I'm
smart.
such a
Yeah.
smart guy.
Yeah.
So my point, Henry, is it's very nice that people think I know something about basketball. When it comes to this kind of stuff regarding oligarchs and billionaires and the NBA, whether they're governors or not, that intersection, I really feel you're the smartest guy in the world on this. There's other people who are smart about different pieces of it, but when the puzzle's put together, I think you have the best, clearest vision. And so when something like this happens, where everyone that didn't pass the smell test for anybody, the guy owned the team for 9 months, I think, when you ultimately come
Mm-hmm.
down to it. So it's one thing if you sell a team after 15 years. I don't know that you need to write an article every time a team sells after X number of years.
Too
This
busy. Yeah.
needed the Henry Abbott stamp
Mm-hmm.
for the rest
Mm-hmm.
of us to understand what really is going on. And I said to you on our phone call, it reminds me a lot of Watergate, my favorite story that's not basketball in the world. I'm reading about it again now, a book I hadn't read before. They didn't know what they were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Woodward and Bernstein and the New York Times, by the way. It wasn't just Washington Post doing these stories, right? The Times was advancing a lot of stories too. They didn't really know. They still are learning. The Nixon tapes that came out some years ago opened up a whole nother level of things that they didn't know about with the papers that were revealed, whatever. So I don't know that we know much about this. I just know you know more than anyone.
I
And
don't. I don't.
so
I'm willing to dig into it, and I care about the sports a lot. But I'm deeply, deeply honored that Nick Nemeth, who I don't know, but who I cited
yeah,
well, at least his account signed in. I don't know if he's actually listening. I was tempted to just have him on the show right now, but I don't want to put him on the spot.
you're
But
welcome to kick me out if you want.
I
I
think we
am
can
a
all be. We should have a whole show with Nick.
yeah.
But he knows. Like he can explain what's happening here better than anyone on planet Earth. You should all go subscribe to Nick. But I'm just a guy in sports who's open to the idea that this is deep, deep, deep douchebaggery. right? And I have that point of view because of the Prokhorov investigation that I started doing at
Yeah,
the very beginning of this version of True Hoop, which was about oligarchs and how oligarchy works and what Vladimir Putin does and what his interests are. And, a lot of that story is about just moving money in hard to trace ways,
right.
vast, vast sums, right? And you could just kind of see that money touched the people who matter most in sports. It just kept happening. And so by the time we get through these series of, what's happening with Tillman Fertitta, what's happening with, there's so many, Josh Harris, there's so, Apollo Global, Jeffrey Epstein, there's so many like things that seem to be part of this same just chunk of offshore money that tries to find its way into stable economies like the US where it won't be seized by the next government um, from wherever it's stolen from. Um, it's here and it likes control. It likes to be in charge. This is bossy money, right? It likes to have control of the government and it likes to have public adulation. It makes that money safer. And so I think part of what's going on is seeing through that lens as all these different things happen. I think most sports people think like, oh, well, we've always had owners. They've always been a little weird. We've always had rich people. We've always had to kind of accommodate them. But I'm like, no, this is different. It's changing now in ways that are related to, like, not to sound too dramatic, but like, why did Hitler want the Olympic Games in Berlin in 1936?
Yeah,
Right? It's like it's part of his accruing power, right? Sports is a way to like kind of make us all feel warm and fuzzy. Why did Putin want the Olympics in Sochi right before he went into Ukraine? Like, same story, same playbook, right? And I feel like this is part of this story, right? There are people. There's a lot of money to be made from, arms, drugs, being a high-ranking government official in certain nations where you can just squirrel money offshore, illicit money, and that money is this loves to be in sports if it can, and so I think the league has a little bit of an obligation to keep it out, and I don't think they've done a very earnest job of that, and so here I am. Don't worry,
Well,
I'll do it.
I like I like how I think you said it to Pablo recently, but you say this all the time to me and to our viewers and listeners and our readers, where you get a much more pure sense of the league through me, my
100%,
stories.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not making any of these things up, and you can go to any game you want to talk to all the same. I tell you everything. I don't tell everyone who I talk to every day. In the last 24 hours, I think I've talked to at least 5 NBA players and one head coach about the best things. Not necessarily all good stories, but
Right.
the goal is the same. I texted with a bunch more. We're on top of this. We're ramping up now. We got all these guys show up in early September. Most of these teams are doing stuff now
Yeah.
more than ever before. I'll probably write a story maybe in the next week or two. I've never had more guys engaged with their teams, with their franchise somewhere, not always in their home city, in August. Normally, it's always after a Labor Day. And the head coach called me on the phone because I have some players that he coaches during the season. How are they doing? And here's what I'm hearing. What are you hearing? Or whatever, because they're not with me. And that's why you, in part, you're also for the truth and for integrity and for fairness. And so these two worlds collide and really compel you to, I think, do what it is that you're doing. And quite frankly, it's really important. It's not just about sports. It's about our livelihoods. It's about
Yeah.
the livelihood of people and the money these people spend a lot of money to go to these games. I've told you this, and I'll let you talk again. Uh, I When a guy said to me before the Spurs got Wemby, 8, 9, 10 months before they got Wemby, the Spurs are going to win the lottery because the league owes them for they didn't tank the way a lot of these other teams did. I said, yeah, fuck that. He got it. They got him.
Same. Well, you put me on the phone with that guy who's an NBA insider, and he
Yeah,
said that the expansion teams would go to Las Vegas and Seattle, and the Spurs would
yeah,
win the lottery at Wemby. And I was like, I don't even know how to
right.
like. I who you call to like check that? I can't like. So the Wemby part, I didn't do anything with the Vegas and Seattle part. You can make a bunch of phone calls and kind of sketch it out, and like I did report that around that time. But the Wemby one, I'm like, I really hope they don't. just so that I don't feel like this whole thing is completely fake,
Exactly.
right? And then they did. I don't know what it proves, but it's creepy.
Well, but again, the overall point is what you've been pushing. What you already said this, they want control.
Yeah,
And so to me, we know they don't care about cheating.
yeah,
We know they don't care about rules. There are no rules that apply to them.
yeah,
And that includes the food we eat, the drugs we take. I get all of that at the pharmacy, whatever. But it has to include now our sports teams.
yeah,
I heard Pablo talking this morning on the Daily. I think he did a good job of describing the value of sports in the world that we're already engaged with AI. What movies are really written by humans anymore? I don't know how many movies going forward are going to be as pure. Maybe none of them. Just someone's brain into a typewriter, so to speak, onto the stage or onto the screen. Compared to sports, you can use AI to figure stuff out, but it's still the players playing and the coaches coaching, especially the players playing part. And so that's the purity of it has so much value, maybe as much as it ever has. And we want to know that there's nothing being gained behind the scenes because then it's just a game show. It's not the same thing.
yeah.
And so that's what you're trying to protect for us, and I appreciate it.
Well, and what I see happening here is, my love of sports and your discussion with players of their love of sports feels similar, right? There's something really honest here, and it's about struggle, right? There's something you're bad at that you want to get good at. Isn't that all of us?
Yep.
Right? And so to me, watching sports is inspiring for like conversations I'll have with my kids about hard things in their lives, right? And it really matters because you have to believe in stuff and you have to work for long-term goals and you have to really desperately want to add that skill or whatever it is and or overcome this hard thing or get better after being injured, etc. And I told you recently it's a long story, but there's a guy who I really like who asked me, do the players even really care? Or is it like a joke to them because they just make so much money? And it's like, oh my God, like, fuck anybody who made the league seem like that,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's the most earnest effort of all time from that side. I know there have been some stories here and there about like some player played high or Michael Jordan was up gambling all night or whatever, but by and large, what's happening that you don't hear about is like unbelievable effort, right? Just, we could go on and on. You have these conversations every day, this super pure thing. So that to me is being threatened by when I read the Epstein files. It was actually very interesting to just read Jeffrey Epstein's emails and start to get a sense of how he thinks. I actually kind of think I could, like, if you sent me an email, I think I could respond as Jeffrey Epstein like fairly well because I think I kind of understand him a little bit. And to me, he's the most transactional human of all time, and he's really good at it, right? And so we're talking about a relationship, a love of sports, a real lifelong deep thing, which is how fans feel about the Dodgers or Lakers. It's how you know, I think both of my kids are going to work in sports. One of them already does. Um, you're on a similar path. Uh,
Yeah.
so to
Exactly.
me, like this is not a passing fancy. This is not a paycheck. This is a real deep thing that is a metaphor for other hard things in life. And the people who dominate it right now, the people who tell Adam Silver what to do, right? The people who are the bosses of the NBA right now and the NFL and English Premiership Soccer and on and on. They're the most transactional humans who've ever lived, and they are very often um, in league with Jeffrey Epstein or Apollo Global or this kind of circle of people, and you can see in the emails that they're unbelievably transactional, even about this stuff that so many of us hold dear. And what's Epstein doing with women, right? I feel like this is there's emails where he's like, some guy went and traveled the world and found a beautiful young woman for Epstein to date for a while. And then he tires of her after they date for a while. And then he has to get that guy to remove her and take her home because he's bored of her. And like, the most transactional. Like, I actually feel a little sorry for these losers who don't know what a relationship is and how to like be good to someone, have them be good to you, and how to build trust, right? Like they don't have that. They're like deficient. They're the finance bros, and they don't understand like what it really means to like work in a factory with your team and love each other over decades and have your little small town be a happy factory town, right? Like, just shut that shit down. And like, I know there's like, oh, the liberals are upset. It's like, no, like this is what humans fucking do. Like this is us. This is the factory is like the Lakers, and we kind of love each other if we're doing it right, right? And they don't understand that. And so it's okay. They get to be deficient, but they probably shouldn't run the world, right? They probably shouldn't be Adam Silver's boss if he's going to go talking about the public trust and this, sacred relationship between Laker fans and the Lakers. Like, if Adam's going to be the watchdog, he should be a watchdog.
Yeah. Well, all right. So Henry, it's like trying to find a wolf at Yellowstone. There's so much. I've done that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
We had a tour guide. It wasn't easy. Um, there's so much to do, but let's try to look at from the perspective of just the Laker fans who are dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
There's lots of far-reaching consequences. I know. I don't know much, but I know that. But you pose a question. I think it was the title of the article. Let's start with that because you've told me some stuff that you didn't write. I think who owns the Lakers? Who really owns the Lakers?
Um, well, we're gonna have a show, assuming Nick Nemeth is into it, on like what Mark Walter's holding, right? Like,
Yeah,
but Mark Walter basically petitions to purchase the Lakers. This part was more than a year ago. This was like
yeah, a couple years
June
ago.
last year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then he goes to the board of governors, and they have to kind of like assess his holdings. They have to assess what he's worth and how much of it is high quality and how much of it is liquid and how much is available. And will he
right.
have money to support the Lakers? And to be honest, like the 29 other teams, they want the Lakers owner to spend like a drunken sailor so that it will trigger revenue sharing.
Of course,
So this is one of the teams that,
they get that money.
and I don't know what they did, but my hunch is that they were like, look at the Dodgers,
Yeah,
like get this guy in here, right? Let's not ask too many questions.
because they spend so
Whatever
much
he's
money.
doing, it seems
Because they
pretty
spend so much, right? Because they spend so much money,
like
right?
the most of all time.
By a lot.
They
Yeah, yeah.
they paid Otani $700 million. Was that right? I said it out loud and it sounded crazy, but I think that's what it is. Someone check me on that. I think that Shohei Otani has a $700 million Dodgers contract. $700 million, and he's just one of their players.
He's really good.
Right?
I wouldn't know.
They're really good.
I've
Like,
never seen him before. I literally don't think I've ever looked at his face.
yeah.
But I heard he's really very good. But I understand your point. It's a lot of
I
money.
mean, yeah. So he's the kind of guy they want to have in the NBA, right? And to be honest, this is the bad news. But if you're from the point of view of the board of governors a year ago, his business is similar to many other prominent investors, including some who invest in the NBA already, right? So just not to pick on the Sixers, I feel like I do pick on the Sixers a little bit, but they have two owners, two billionaires, one whose money emanates from Apollo Global, which has
Josh
Josh Harris, whose Apollo's like big move over the last decade has been Athene, which is kind of a superstar of this line of business that we're talking about, which has insurance with like a little bit scary holdings. Another one is now I always get this wrong. This is Blackstone, right? Is David Blitzer? It's
Black Rock.
Black Rock or Black? Oh my goodness.
I think it's Black Rock because my mom's invested in Blackstone. So
Okay, let's go with Black Rock. So David
Blackstone's,
Blitzer,
Blackstone's private equity
it's
credit.
Steven Schwartzman is the big dog. Somebody
Right.
will be telling
That's
us that. So anyway, so they also were in this insurance game. So I can imagine that if you're the board of governors, you're like, oh, we already know this. We know this situation, right? But as people who know more about this than I do, they're like, hey, the holdings aren't that great, right? Like the insurance used to be, life insurance in particular, used to be a business where they would have names with the word rock in it, right? It would be like boring, 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 because you're good. They want your money when you're pretty young, and then they want you to believe that your money is going to still be there when you're old enough to die, right? This is the business. And if they're up and down and flighty, then you might not want to give them your money. So That's how it always went, and they would invest in T-bills and really boring things. The private equity guys came into the business, and I say guys because they're almost all guys, and just started milking it for profit, right? They would have to they used to raise money for a fund, a private equity fund, and they had to pay them back in 7 years. Um, but if you own an insurance company, the people pay the premiums every month or quarter or year or whatever program they have, and you just keep having money for all the deals you want to do. And it's not well regulated, it doesn't seem to me. A lot of the
No surprise.
holdings, you get to hire a ratings company to rate it for you. And there
Crazy.
seems to be some particular focus around this ratings company called Egan Jones, which just had to pay a massive fine
Fine.
for just kind of being the pay attention to Adam Silver, the regulator that just kind of waves the people through, right? Um, what good are you? What good are you if you're paid to check the quality? You don't check the quality, right? There's like a food inspector who's like, "Here you go, salmonella. Here you go, whatever this virus is that they're getting from lettuces that right now." You want regulators do a real job. It's
Yeah.
helpful. It's not fun, but it's useful. There's a reason we have that role. And so, yeah, so now Mark Walter's money is a whole bunch of accounts with a whole bunch of hard to track names, and the quality of the investments seems to be a little dodgy. And that's the money that has purchased the Lakers. At the same time, there's a confusing set of transactions. I shouldn't be the one to describe this, but he has some ongoing business with the United Arab Emirates. And the reported quantity of the deal that Mark Walter's companies have with Mubadal Capital is about the total amount that Mark Walter paid for the Lakers. So, Brian Windhorst, Pablo Torre have kind of suggested like that he bought the Lakers with Emirati money or Middle Eastern money or not as money. So, someone smarter than me, some forensic accountant, some investigator, some Nick Nemeth will have to kind of really answer, like, is that indeed what happened?
Nick, are you getting the message?
Yeah, Nick, we got a lot of work for you, man. Sorry. I've never even met him. I'm sure he's a great guy. But yeah, he's busy. He's got a lot, like he's been on this thing that
Yeah.
suddenly is the thing, right? And he's
Yeah.
been screaming about it. But yeah, so this is who owns the Lakers? Did I answer your question?
Not even remotely. Not even remotely.
So we don't know, and that's a problem. We don't know. Like the NBA, like I have my life covering the NBA has gone through phases. Um, One phase that I'm kind of in now is I don't give a shit what they say because they lie all the time. Like I don't say that I'm not bitter. Like I'm full of love and enthusiasm, but there's particular humans who work at the NBA who've called me up and said, "Oh, this, that," and like, and over time you can do homework and like that was a lie. And so I don't know. Like what's
Well,
happening here? Like they would
let's
why they yeah.
hold on. Let's be forensic about it.
Okay.
So, according to the releases and the statements, a Kushner and an Iger are listed as the co-governors, co-owners, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
Okay. Why can't a Laker fan believe, oh, they're just going to be the owners now?
Well, they don't have enough money, right? So this is what I'm driving at is the NBA. I mean, my relationship with them has been a bunch of meetings in person, a bunch of conference calls, a bunch of phone calls over decades, right? And I covered the lockout, which was a real opportunity to like
I remember.
get into their business, right? With like explaining like how it really works. And I think that there were many times when they were being super frank, right? And really helping me understand because they wanted the coverage to be reflective of the truth. And so I'm always happy to be a partner with anyone who wants that, right? But more recently, the one of the big points that they've made over the time I've been covering the NBA is that they want one real beneficial owner. That's where beneficial matters, right? So who really has the money, right? And the Mark Walter thing, we're saying, I don't know whose money it really was. And whose money it really is matters. So like if I go buy a house and I borrow 90% of the cost, then really the bank has a tremendous amount of say in what happens under a stressful situation, right? So an outsider might say, hey, like, that's kind of the bank's house, even though I have some rights. But like if I fall delinquent or if there's a flood or different situations, like the bank has a ton of rights. Same deal here, right? If Mark Walter falls behind in whatever's happening in his empire, it could be that someone else is like, really, that's my money. Those are my Lakers, right? So the ultimate beneficial owner here is a term that basically means whose money is it really? And the NBA has been telling me over the years that they want to have a clean
Yeah.
owner. They want to have someone who really put their money in. Like Michael Jordan tried to buy Charlotte with like really none of his money. And eventually they were like, no, like if you're going to be the guy, you got to be the guy. You got to put in some money. And that was a hard choice for him, and he made it. And on and on. So the idea has been that we're going to have someone who's the identifiable personal skin in the game, not a corporation, not a 50-50 partnership, somebody whose team it is. And now I'm starting to think that that commitment didn't last very long from the NBA because they've scrambled to change the rules to let more private equity in, to let more sovereign wealth funds in, and maybe they're letting even more in than was apparent. And my guess is that in the future they're going to let even more in because ultimately they end up doing whatever makes the most money for the other owners, right? And this is how we got here. Like this is how things get super transactional is from these transactions.
Yeah. Uh, so something happens in my world, not infrequently, is I'll have a team president or a head coach or both or an agent ask me to help them make the pitch to the owner
Mm.
over why we should do something.
Hmm.
When I say we, mean they. I'm not. I have no equity in any of these teams. Um, and so that is a grayer area now. This is what
Hmm.
we're talking about here.
Hmm.
The Lakers want to decide to go out, trade for Jokic, whatever. Who?
Hmm.
It's not the president who makes that decision. In most
Right.
cases, there are exceptions. There are places we talked about. I talked to an agent yesterday how we feel like when we talk to some teams, the person we're talking to makes that decision because they're trusted by the bosses. The Spurs have always been kind of famous for that. That you really feel like you're talking to the decision maker. That
Hmm.
the owner's just going to say okay, but that is not normal, and I think that is dwindling even more. And that's one reason why we all want to know who really owns this team. I mean, and I even had a president. This is a team president. This is not a G League team president,
Yep.
but a team president who called me about assigning a player to an E10, which is an Exhibit 10 contract, which
Mhm.
is like an addendum to a real NBA contract, even though they're ranked lower than two-way players who are both because they get paid like one-fifth the money.
Mhm.
A E10 player, if he plays the whole year, might make 135 or so $1,000. Two-way players at 640 and change, and which is half of what a minimum contract at the NBA now. So it's almost like a tenth the E10 player, but it's still an exhibit. It's still a contract for the NBA.
Mhm.
This president told me that the player he wanted to sign wasn't as popular as an E10 player they're hoping to get that the owner wanted because he thought he would sell more G League tickets to it for that team.
Screw off,
It,
yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy. But and I even said to the president, like, really? Like, you
Yeah.
really think you can get more tickets? But it's not his call. This is the boss's call. And so who's the boss? This is what we're talking about. This is the Lakers we're talking about. This is obviously it's a valuable team. It's an important franchise. Who is really calling the shots? Is it Kushner? He is supposedly the most money in, but where's that money coming from? Which is what you're looking at. This is what you're asking. So who
Yeah, I
really
mean,
is?
the New York Times reports that Iger might not put money in at all.
Yeah, you wrote that. Yeah,
So, like, why is everybody saying that Iger is buying the Lakers? Like,
right,
he's not. He's
right.
not.
He's allowed to be hired on the staff. You can call him a consultant if you want. One day when I get too old for any player to want to
Yeah,
listen to me,
do that. It's a good job.
I might do a consulting job. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good job.
If I can have some equity, even better. If I don't
Yeah.
put any money in, beautiful.
And so why would the league be confident in announcing these two guys to take on $12.5 billion in debt? When,
Yeah.
Forbes can be wrong. Forbes estimates Iger's worth 600 million and Kushner's worth 5 billion. Like, why would the league? Like, usually you would do your homework and then announce that, but there's tons of confidence here, and we can speculate as to why. Some context I know is that, Adam Silver is so close to Bob Iger that he introduced Bob Iger to his wife. And the NBA, the biggest income deal in the history of the league is the current Disney deal,
Yeah.
which Adam Silver negotiated with Bob Iger.
Right.
So like he's the underreported in this is that while it's true that sports have had grotesque revenue, like just extraordinary revenue, it's not true that the league's like bigger sphere has grown. What's happened is that we keep finding people willing to bid a ton on these media contracts. But if you look under the hood, those media companies are losing money. Like Bob Iger gave a bunch of Disney money to the NBA, and it's going to prove to be bad for Disney shareholders. Now, before everybody yells at me about this, I understand the idea of this lost leader, right? They're going to lose money on this NBA thing, but it's going to give them a toehold in promoting their other shows.
This is what
And
they're arguing.
yeah, but they're lost leaders. I don't know. The NFL might make money. I don't know, but the NBA, I'm telling you, like it's been a money loser for the people who win the rights for a very long time. They
Right.
just pay too much. They can't make it back. Those ads don't do it. The cable, we'll see what happens with Amazon. I don't know. Maybe their business model works,
It's a
but
different model. Yeah,
but
they're
yeah,
selling product. That
but
company sells product
but the
in a
deal
different way.
here isn't that the business has grown so much. The deal is that they can get the deal, right? And in getting the deal, in raising the money, Bob Iger and Josh Kushner are elite,
Yeah.
right? So, and Bob Iger just opened. One of his last things he did as CEO of Disney was to announce the opening of the Yas Island Disney site in
Yeah.
the UAE, right? He's negotiating with the brother of Khaldoun Al Mubarak, who's been described as the CEO of the UAE, who's the critical figure in Mubadala Capital, which is the entity that has some deal with Mark Walter, right? So I don't know. Seems like there's kind of high trust with these people who might feel they're owed a lot of money by Mark Walter. Um, and then we don't really know how Josh Kushner raises money, but for Thrive Capital, but we know it's gone up extraordinarily, tenfold in the last few years, how much money they have under management. And there's a pretty great New York Times article about how Josh Kushner and Jared Kushner, like when Jared Kushner was new in the White House, he traveled the Middle East meeting with the most powerful people, and Josh Kushner met with them a few days before and seemed to get special attention, the kind of attention that drew was raised eyebrows from other investors who were trying to raise money from, in that case, Saudi Arabia. So it's a geopolitical question. There's tons of money in the American financial system from the Middle East, especially if you look at like how private equity funds raise money. I don't know why no one ever asked that question. I was like, oh, they have money. It's like, well, where'd they get it? It's not from just well-run businesses. They mostly just pull businesses apart and destroy them, which is a reason not to have private equity investing in your NBA franchise. But where do they get their money? And it's show me if anybody can a giant private equity firm that doesn't raise money from Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, etc.
Right.
Um,
Some of their money could come from people like you and me, but that's not where most of their billions are coming from, is what you're claiming.
I mean, it's just you can just see the deals are announced.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're massive, and so they're a big investor in Apollo Global is CalPERS, like the California Teachers Union. And
Yeah.
boy, do they love talking about that, right? Then when Leon Black has to go testify before Congress because of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, he's like, man, I'm just trying to watch out for the teachers. Like that's that's money laundering, right? Like
Yeah.
you're
Well,
taking,
he didn't have saying he had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is saying I have a relationship with my daughter.
yeah,
He funded.
he was the critical funder. He paid a giant fine to the U.S. Virgin Islands for funding Jeffrey Epstein's operations in the islands.
Yeah.
Yeah, how he's not been arrested blows my mind. blows my mind. Just the evidence. There's actually emails in the Epstein files of lawyers being like, "How is this guy not arrested?" you know, um,
Howard.
he's a, he checks all the boxes of like everything you can be accused of credibly. He's accused of all of them, and he's going next games. There he was with his son who's been appointed in the Trump administration, sitting in like the fourth row as the Knicks are in the finals. But yeah, so I think that people with control, Josh Kushner and Bob Iger, they can pick the phone and reach people they need to reach to make sure that this embarrassing thing that's happening to Mark Walter doesn't happen again next time around, right?
Yeah,
Or
it's lipstick on a pig potentially. If these seem, Josh has this squeaky clean reputation. Iger, obviously powerful insider in business, and also I think has a clean reputation, generally speaking. So let's name them,
Mhm.
and that's all. It's to protect from what really may be happening. That's why you're curious,
And now, like, not talking about Kushner and Iger, but just in general, right? If what you're doing is crime, if the money that you have is dirty, then what you're worried about is getting in trouble. You're worried about the law, right? You're worried about it could be the law back home, it could be the law domestically. Um, but if you look in the Epstein files, what you're seeing is he's the kind of guy who can, like this the French wing of the Rothschild Bank, which is the Edmund Rothschild Bank, um, was offering all sorts of services that are not legal to U.S. customers, and they got in trouble with the U.S. government. And it's Swiss bank kind of sneaking money around the planet kind of stuff. And so the woman who ran the bank, de facto ran the bank, Ariane Rothschild, reached out to Epstein. Was like, can you help us out here? And they were worried that they were going to be fined reportedly $80 million. And Epstein was the kind of guy who had the sort of connections who really quickly got it resolved for about half that. And so Epstein was credibly someone who can watch over your operation and protect it from the regulators.
right?
He's got the highest level contacts in the world, and they owe him, right?
Yeah.
um, and they do stuff. And so in that case, it was Kathy Rumler, who she had just been the assistant attorney general in the Obama administration. She was like a few weeks out of that job when she suddenly takes on this Rothschild client and boom, 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 like, problems go away. So this is the kind of stuff, real control, highest level of control you can possibly imagine. That's the kind of stuff that is very helpful in this game that we're talking about. And so, boy, can Josh Kushner call anyone in the White House if he has a little bit of a problem? You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
probably doing okay in the White House. It's a
Listen, he can
pretty
call
easy
Putin if
phone call.
he can call Putin if he wanted to.
He could probably call Putin.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, his brother has a familiar relationship with the president, who seems very close to Putin to me.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, all this is happening, and obviously, training camp is a month away, just over. Um, and it makes me think of the movie The Matrix, where one of the original humans who was alive and partnering with the other original humans, uh, he just doesn't care anymore. He just wants to be he wants to forget about what's really happening, which is obviously the human species is at war with machines. He wants to put his head in the sand and just enjoy. When he's eating a steak, he knows it's in the Matrix. It's not real, and that's all he wants to know. And I'm sure there are lots of people out there, as there have been for years, by the way, in our country, who they don't want to know about how the sausage is made or not made. They don't want to know any of it.
Yeah.
Of course,
Fair.
until that their a house falls on them or something. Like stuff does happen, and those true hoopers who I feel that way, they're in the wrong place, because we're not going to shy away from. I don't want you as a partner of you. I don't want you to shy away from trying to clean up, just to know the truth of what's going on off the court, because it matters to those of us who make our living on the court.
Mhm.
And these guys are. I was talking to a player this morning. He's recovering from surgery, and he can't do any jumping. He said, "Oh, I'm jumping in the pool because that's all he can do."
Yeah.
The power to come up is
Yeah.
you're doing work. There's no landing impact. I'm guessing, by the way, I'm not a doctor or a
Yeah.
physio, but that landing is a big part of the problem. If
And there's
that's solved,
less force when he's jumping too.
right? So he's still
Yeah.
jumping. That part's
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
and he put on some weight because they want to put on weight to attack the issues that he's had with the surgery. But he'll take that off in a week and a half because
Yeah.
he's a world class athlete and he looks like a superhero. And he knows so when he can really run, he'll be able to do it. These guys, I had a player called me yesterday before he goes overseas to make sure this is his last trip. It's a business trip to make sure that when he gets back, he is having some teammates. They're all getting together with some coaches, and he wants to make sure they have a great plan. And it's his deal. It's not the coaching deal. It's his deal. He's just bringing some young coaches to kind of learn and work, whatever. And he wanted my thoughts on what should we do, whatever. Like this is all these guys do.
Yeah.
They're just locked in. Maybe they play golf and they play basketball and they train and that's it. And they
Yeah.
deserve that to feel pride in where they are and what they're doing.
And
That's the argument.
think about Rasheed Wallace as a Piston. Like the Pistons gave him permission to love his teammates.
Yeah.
And he bought them all those big championship belts and they'd hold them up and they were like the Knicks this summer, the Pistons that summer they won were like, you know, just a party. Like they just loved
Yeah.
each other. It was, just so you take that guy, you throw him in this context, and he still gets a big smile on his face when he talks about it, right? That same guy, just a year before, was CTC. Remember this?
Yeah.
CTC. Cut the check. Right? He was playing in Portland and he felt it was owned by Paul Allen and he felt kind of salty about everything. And he had his battles with the refs and he felt the urge for it to be like a family, but he was getting transaction vibes. And so he was like, just cut the check, man. Like, I'll check the clock. I'll punch the clock. I'll do my job.
Do
And
my
then I
job.
want to leave. So you are talking about a player who's coming off an injury who wants to feel fully validated in all in, give it everything I have for us. Maybe the us part doesn't happen. Maybe it's just for me. Maybe it's just for my own income, right? But ideally, you get more motivation from being part of a team and really feeling trusted and trusting. And I think that in most cases now in the NBA, and this is not new, but like the billionaire doesn't get it. The billionaire's like, well, you need some more money for physical therapists? Is that what you're saying? It's like, no, like I want you to be committed to me. But the reality is that if this player you're talking about has a devastating injury, they're going to try to get rid of him as fast as they can,
For
right?
sure.
Wasted roster spot. Um, if I think there's real strategy, effective strategy in saying, no, once you're here, you're here. Like we're keeping another community forever, but like we're committed to you and we're going to nurse you through this because you tell everyone to give everything they have then, and they play better and they add more skills and they think long term and they bet on themselves in a way that benefits the team and they play defense, right? Stuff like this. So I don't know, to me, the league is better if it's about the players who are the best thing about the league. And it's better if it's about them having long-term family style relationships with their teammates and their coaches and whatever. And that's a useful thing for Adam Silver to think about, caring about players. And when he has to pick between caring about players and making a little more money for the billionaires, like he picks the same way every time. And it's heartbreaking. And, so that's where I'm not unsympathetic to why that's his job, but I think there should be some pushback and it should come from fans. And so this is why, you know, I don't understand Hollywood. I like watching movies. When I watch a Hollywood movie, I'm basically an idiot. And there's probably a true Hollywood guy who's like, Henry, you're not helping. You're supporting the bad people. I'm like, I probably am, you know? But if I wanted to dig down deeper, I would like someone to be able to explain it to me. And, this is what we're doing here at True Hoop. It's, it feels important, to be honest.
I think it does. It was something I've evolved a little bit as a talent evaluator and as someone who gets a chance to coach or mentor a lot of young coaches, including my son and his boss. I like looking at what I would guess I refer to as a specialness quotient. Like, what is the potential for this individual to be a special human being?
Mhm.
I don't think they're such rare things, by the way, but they're not ubiquitous. Everyone doesn't have the same specialist quotient. And so, like last year's team, this was our college, Arkansas State. Uh, I kept saying to my son, you guys aren't going to be special because you don't have a bunch of special people playing. You
Mm.
put together a team, you found a way to win 20 games, all that's great. But I know what's really happening behind the scenes. By the way, you can be a bunch of special guys and one day be a special team and still go through conflict. That's normal. What
Mhm.
family doesn't have that? For
Mhm.
sure. We're always going to have that. Part of what gets them through it is they're special as people. And so this week I was able to get on the court, which I don't do so much anymore, with two players from Duke. Off the charts special. Like, trust me when I tell you, Florida may win the national championship. They're ridiculously loaded. Duke's right there with them. I don't know the Florida guys. I know the Duke. I know some of the Duke guys. But Duke's always had this advantage because it's Duke.
Mhm.
They can recruit. They don't just they already get the best, the best. Everyone else does too. But they can also just take the best people.
Mhm.
And so, of course, they don't win every year. You only play one game of college to win or lose a game. It's not like it's a series. They'd have a lot more champs, in my opinion. They don't have a lot of upset wins. I know they beat UNLV once for an upset win when that team was undefeated. UNLV probably wins a best of seven series. But I think Duke would have more titles than anyone if you did best of sevens
Mhm.
because they were so special. Well, that's what we have in the NBA. We have best of sevens to determine playoff winners. So to me, I'll give an example. I've always been concerned about Ben Matherin. Super athletic, super physical, super talented, super dedicated, very skilled, shoots it, scores it. I don't know that he's got that specialness quality, and I don't think the Pacers got it out of him. And so it's not just a Matherin issue or a team Matherin issue. All the people on his side, the Pacers failed also. We, Jalen Green, has he ever shown the ability to be special as a human being and as a player? I don't think so. And so, but I tell you what, watch the Knicks last year, loaded with specialness.
Mhm.
And that's common on champions. And I don't know which comes first, by the way. Does the player evolve into that person, or does that specialist help evolve the team? I think it's a
Mhm.
combination. I'm fascinated by it.
Mhm.
Uh, the league is so much better off when we're not having to talk about these other things. And we can just talk about how everyone, it's not just kumbaya, it's dedicated professionals, men and women, working very hard from all sorts of different backgrounds, ethnicities, religions, all of it, to create a special. The more special teams we have, the better off the league is.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Now we got the Clippers issue, we got the Lakers issue. I could go on. We know all these things are happening. It just eludes from the overall. It really sucks like a vampire. Some of the real specialists, the blood of what makes this league and this sport great, it makes it less great.
Well, David, I'll tell you that in the time I've known you, you're forever meeting some young player, some
Yeah.
unheralded player, and you're just like, "Oh." I mean, obviously, Kevin Martin's like your origin story, I guess, whatever, like, but, he's at Western Carolina, right?
Even Udonis. Udonis was
Yeah,
undrafted. Yeah,
and you're saying to people like, "Oh, that guy is," like, you're
he's
seeing
got it.
3 to 5 years out, like, this is special, and people are like, then they'll reduce the player to a transactional assessment, right? They're like, "Oh,
For
but he
sure.
has a broken jumper, a funny looking shot, or he doesn't get back
He's
on D," or
speedy.
whatever it is. But you're like, "No, I what I feel like you're saying is like, we have had tractor beam, like, laser eye conversations of just like, "Oh, you're on this journey. I'm on this journey. We can do this together." Like, the fact that there's 1,000 hours of work to do is nothing. Like, we're doing it anyway. We're just gonna tweak what it is, right? So you're seeing what can be in the future as opposed
Yeah.
to what is, right? And, well, what feeds that? Well, I think there's a bunch of books on my shelf over there which are all about trust, right? It's all about feeling of safety, a willingness to be playful and try new things and go outside your lane a little bit and, become the someone who didn't shoot threes but does even in games on national TV now as you're feeling it. Like, this kind of stuff doesn't come from transactional thinking. It just
No.
doesn't. You got to be like, you know, I the people who matter to me will love me whether I miss this three or not, right? And will
Well,
help
listen,
me, right?
we can boil that down, and I understand that it's a business, but you know this. My players know that when they score 50 points in a game or whatever great number you want, talk to your parents, talk to your cousins, talk to your friends and your fans and all of that. You don't got to call me. We'll talk the
Yeah,
next day, whatever.
yeah, you're good that night. Yeah,
When you score 5 points and you suck, I want to be the first voice.
yeah,
I very much pride myself on that. And now take what you're saying on the team side. They might just bring you and cut you. Obviously, not if you're a good player and all
yeah.
of that. But
But you,
they're and I understand the business part of it. But to them, it is just he's not good enough. Let's just get rid of him.
yeah,
And they know that,
yeah,
and they don't play as well because of it.
yeah,
I think the best coaches give you a longer leash. That's why it's so important to be drafted.
yeah,
First round over second round, lottery over first round, later in the first round, early second versus late second. You're given a longer leash to fail. This is a game of mistakes.
yeah,
Yeah. Jalen Green, has he ever been worth what they're paying him? And he was, I think, the number 2 pick, maybe? I forget. Yeah. He was a high pick.
yeah,
And maybe he's got a lot. I mean, but the same player drafted 28th. Oh, he's been in polling for years.
yeah.
And he's super
One of the
talented.
I think there's a way I can probably make every single example about the Blazers. So let's keep trying that. I mean, one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life was Jermaine O'Neal was not heavy in the rotation. I mean, he was drafted. He was 17. Maybe now he was 18 or 19. And there was an injury. I forget to whom. And they were in the playoffs. And Mike Dunleavy, senior, had Jermaine O'Neal go out there and just stand in the corner. Like he's this kind of high potential player, but they just didn't trust him. And the whole thing was basically, we have a good thing. You're gonna fuck it up, right? And like this is the opposite of trust. This is the opposite of like, what if they merely said, let's explore, like all this stuff you've been doing in practice, like showtime, right? Like, let's let you do you, right? Let's feel the limits of your abilities. And guess what happened? Jermaine O'Neal left that team and became fucking stud. you
Yeah. I
know?
I
like,
have a similar story. I remember being at a game in Orlando late in the season, and I was watching warm-ups, and there was a very tall, well-known player that was not playing at all. Charlotte was playing. He didn't play one bit. He was healthy. They were not trying to lose. He just didn't play. And I watched him the whole game from my spot where they put the ESPN people like in the baseline. Um, and I remember thinking the whole time I'm watching him, thinking like, "What is he thinking? Is his career over?
yeah.
He's not playing on a relatively average team at best." That guy ended up going to Dallas. His name is Tyson Chandler, and then signed a whole after he won a championship and might have been Defensive Player of the Year, by the way.
yeah.
Then went to, I think, New York after that for a bunch of money, but he was
That's
sitting
amazing.
on Charlotte's bench,
Yeah.
and we have a
Danny
video.
Green cut by the Cavs when they were the worst team in the league, and then started for the Spurs in the finals.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, even with Udonis, when the former GM there told Giannis's agent, like, "I don't think he'll ever play for us all season." We're signing him. He's getting, I think it was 75 grand guaranteed up front against 335. I think minimum in 2003 was 335 was the minimum.
Okay.
Now it's a million something.
Yeah.
And the GM told the agent, like, "I doubt he'll ever even dress." That's a
Yeah.
quote.
Yeah.
And he only played 20 years in the league. I mean, who wouldn't want an unbelievably invested, high level defender, tough guy, rebounder, brilliant basketball IQ, selfless leader? Who wouldn't want that guy on your team? But he went undrafted the year before, and so only a few teams thought he was any good. It's just, yeah, this is whatever. They're allowed to make mistakes on that. Every team does that. But we at least like to know it's a level playing field, and we want to know who the bosses are. Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to know who the
Yeah.
decision makers are?
And I
And then
think that, and we've talked about this before, but like you and Marcus Elliott are in the business of, I'm working with you, the player. I'm committed to you, the player. If you end up going to Europe, we're going to try to make your career the best it can be in Europe, and that's you and Marcus are as high as you can get in this business with someone, or maybe if you play for, the Thunder or the Spurs, right? Of someone who you go to lunch with and really talk about what's best for you, the player, right? And any further up, and what you get is, if you don't perform, we'll get somebody else. And it's simply not elite management. It's simply not the way to get the most out of people. Like, it works for some, there are some people we always talk about. There's, like, LeBron, Michael Jordan, they self-motivate and they'll be killer no matter what. But, like, to get the most out of a workforce, like, they have to believe that this is a safe place to put their best efforts. And, you know, so in my book, there's a bunch of examples of billionaires who send themselves, like Robert Pera, or their children, like Herb Simon, to get the most elite P3 training, but not their NBA team.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, because they have a relationship with their own body or their son's body that they think is long term and they want to baby it, right? But with the players, they're like, well, it's kind of expensive. I guess that's what they're thinking. They don't articulate this, but are we really this guy might not be with us in 6 months, so are we really going to go all the trouble? You know, Bummer.
I remember I remember decades, it gotta be 20 years ago, my brother's own MRI center, we invested it as well, but they run it. One reads the MRIs, the other manages it, whatever. They have 3 of them. And, a local doctor who did not send his patients to the MRI center called one of my brothers directly and said, "Hey, I need to get my wife in to your
Oh.
to your."
Oh, now we like quality. Yeah,
And it's so
now
deep.
we like
And
yeah, yeah.
my brother, one of my 2 brothers, what the one that managed it said, "Why us? Like, you don't even do us you don't do any business. Doctors send patients to MRI centers all the time. It's, that's part of the marketing is you're marketing to get scans. Lawyers' offices, doctors' offices, chiropractors, whatever." And my brother said, "You don't send any of your patients. Why are you sending your wife to us?" He's like, "And why are you calling me?" He's like, "Well, you guys are booked around the clock. I can't get her in, and I need to get her in. She's got cancer or whatever." And it's like, again, why are you calling me? And he said, "You guys have the best magnet,
Yeah,
and I need that." He's like, "But your patients don't?" He's like, "Nope."
yeah.
That was a good lesson. I've learned a lot about the medical business. This is what we're talking about here.
That's
Same
exactly what we're talking about. That's
and
exactly what we're talking about. Yeah.
and right. And to get back to the original point we always make is, of course, it's just a general statement, but these players they're so locked into getting better and winning and connecting with people on their team, with their staff. One of my favorite things to do, Henry, really, is walking in with, I don't do this a lot because every time I'm at a game, I'm missing 15 other games, whatever. But going in with the player or leaving with the player to his car, because all these guys park in the garage if it's a home game. They know everyone. And they're and it's something I used to always tell players, I don't have to anymore. They already know. Treat the security guard, treat the parking attendant, treat the woman that's checking up, everyone, treat them with respect.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget when you mentioned Kevin Martin. In fact, I may see Kevin this weekend. He lives in St. Pete. We're gonna have dinner together tomorrow night. Um, when Kevin played his last game in Sacramento, I'm sorry, he came back to Sacramento from Houston. He had been training in Houston, and I happened to be going to the game in Sacramento. And I saw the King's security person, a few other people, and they were so emotional seeing Kevin.
Mhm.
And they said, "We're really gonna miss him." This team, the Kings, were a mess. And they said he always was so kind. He
Mhm.
was always the last person out of the locker room. He always, did the media, whatever, because he was their best player. And he just gave he's just a kind person.
Mhm.
And they miss that. They value that. A lot of these players are that way, as you know, as I know. And so we'd like some consistency from the top down,
Yeah.
right? Tell us the truth, even if it's not our favorite thing, we want to know the truth. So
I did
I'm gonna
honestly, a really sweet moment of my life was, when a forgotten period of NBA history is when Steve Kerr was the GM of the Suns. Remember that?
of course I do. I had a player drafted by them in the lottery. Yeah.
So I was writing, I forget what story I was writing, but I wanted to interview Steve Kerr for it, and he's a very nice guy. And he was like, "Yeah, come walk with me." And so, they'd finished a game and the players are coming off the floor, and Steve wanted to stand in the tunnel there, and he was giving me the attention and giving good answers or whatever. I'm recording this thing, but he he apologized that he was gonna stop every time a player came by. And I think they had lost, and he wanted to be the GM. I realized over time, it became clear that, he didn't want any player to go home that night thinking that Steve thought that player had fucked up,
Yeah.
So he was just standing there. He's got a great smile, and he's just, just hugging Amari Stoudemire, and just like, "Hey, man, next time," right? And I was like, "Man," I don't know how many people in the NBA get that or
Sam
do
Presti
that.
does that.
Sam Presti does that.
All the
Like
whole Thunder team do. Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I wanna play
That's
for that.
valuable stuff.
I wanna play
Yeah,
for that guy. Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
I wanna play for that guy, for sure. His
exactly.
biggest worry is that I go home feeling bad about my bad performance, like,
Yeah, that's not gonna
that's
help them play better.
yeah, no,
Trust me, they're already thinking about it.
yeah, yeah,
They
everybody's
know when they suck.
this is my like, when Chris Webber calls that timeout, everyone's like, "You gotta know how many times" I was like, "He
Yeah,
knows.
yeah, of course.
He's
Right,
smart." Like,
right, right.
you ever get in a car accident? Like, you need
Yeah,
someone just being like, "Hey, you gotta watch the car." Like, yeah,
and he was 19? Was he
Yeah.
19?
This is
I think he was
stupid.
19.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah,
freshman. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, anyway.
Alright, maybe next week we'll talk basketball.
Maybe next week we'll
Nothing's
have
happening.
Nick Nemeth on the show.
Oh, that's true. Actually, you know what? I'm doing a clinic in Alabama, let's see, Sunday, Monday, back after that, but I also may be going out of town to do another workout with some guys. I'll let you know.
And
And
I haven't
Nick
really
Wednesday.
I'm gonna teach a college class this fall, and it's not local for me. We'll talk more about it later. It's just not I'm quite ready to do that yet, but, my schedule is about to be stupid. I don't even know we may be able to do this from a train. I don't know what's gonna happen, but, like, we're gonna do our best. We're gonna just we're hard workers, me and you, we'll figure it out, but, yeah, we will be in touch about what the schedule is moving forward, and maybe Nick Nemeth wants to host, like, 10 shows. What do you think? Maybe that's gonna happen, I don't
Not with me, but with someone smart about
know.
it.
Oh! You disappeared for a second.
Yeah, no, I saw myself, you disappeared from me. Whatever.
Weird,
We're
okay.
done.
Alright, we're done. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to
Have
you
a good
soon.
weekend.
Have a good one.